It's bigger. It's louder. It's better than ever. This still isn't your typical motorsports podcast. This is the 10th anniversary of Crush This, a monster truck podcast brought to you by J Concepts. For 10 years, your hosts, the monster truck Canucker Bradshaw and Dan Chichagash, have brought you into the minds and personalities of the monster truck industry. Strap in and hold on tight. This is Crush This!
Hey guys, welcome to the Crush This Monster Truck Podcast. It's a Wednesday night instead of a Tuesday, but it's okay. I want to give you guys a heads up that Brad ain't going to be here every Wednesday night. He does his church musical stuff like that, so we can't really, hey, if that's first, it's good to go, but he'll be back next week. And I believe next week we're going to have, I think Carson Wilson from Team Throttle Monster. I believe he will be on next week. He drove the Velociraptor. I think right now he's driving Earthshaker for the Arena Series West Tour as of right now. But we are, once again, thank you, presented by J Concepts. Got my J Concepts shirt here. Also we have our heavy metal tank, and then my sport mod that I run on action tracks or in off track. It's my version of Rap Attack from 2008 to 2013. Well, the 2008 has the Chevy Hawkeye clip. I try to move the body as forward as I possibly can. If you take a look at the green here, that is the rest of the chassis. So it would start looking weirder where you would have the cab and then the chassis itself. So only have so much front room to make the overbite happen to go from there. So and we also got the Renegade tires, the tribute rims, and that's the chassis itself. The chassis is a black market. I think it's like a they call it it's not a race source, but that's the black market chassis. And this one is just the Kyosho. I just like it, so it's to be there, just to back up. But if you go to Crush This, check out, type in Crush This at jconcepts.net, 15% off all items. Also, with that too, while you're at it, and we do. If you miss this episode and want to catch up audio, we'll put it on iTunes and Spotify. Once again, thank you for the 5-star likes and reviews. While you're at it, go ahead and take a screenshot of this episode and tag me and Preston in it and tag Crush This and show people, hey, you've been watching the show also. But if you don't and you miss out, go to monstersmonthly.com. The audio episodes are in there. Go take a listen to that too. Just then, also, the cool thing is we're going to have some commercials here, and that commercial also is Monster Truck Attitude. We'll play the commercial and stuff like that too, but they just debuted a new event called Revolution, kind of the ECW type deal. It's Friday nights now instead of Friday nights. We still have Thursday Night Thunder. I'll still have the ad going on there for that too. But go check that out too. Monster Truck Attitude. Bryce Kenny in his book Geared for Life. We still show some love for him. Go take a look at that too. Amazon.com. Geared Life Making Shift Potential. And go check a look at that book too. And some cool stuff also. I'm still trying to keep up with all the stuff here. But with that, we see it. Rap Attack in the back. The loudest truck ever. But we're going to play a commercial. And with that commercial also, we have Preston Prerez on. So talk about the 2025 All-Star Monster Truck Champion. What's new with him. People may want to know what's going on They not have heard the news through social media and stuff like that with Wart Motorsports about them slowing down a little bit. And people, hey guys, how's it going? If you have any questions, by the way, on the podcast, please ask if you have anything with Preston, and we can have you on also with that. So we'll go ahead and go with that too. And like I said, we'll have Preston on here in a few. So let's see if there's anything going on here on Instagram. Hey, folks, thank you. Doing pretty good. Getting ready to go to Pensacola, Florida for Monster Jam, the last show for the Monster Jam Arena Series East. And then we're getting ready to do some cool stuff on the dealership season and some shows going on with that too. So catch a look for that. We're getting ready for the Pittsburgh Monsters and Mega Show. Go take a look at that. $25 for tickets. I think 5 and under is free. So it's going to be fun. We'll get a couple drivers and stuff like that on there and talk and stuff like that. So, all right, we're going to do our commercial and go from there and have some fun with Preston Prerez. So here we go.
Are you ready to get in on the action here on the Monster Truck Attitude YouTube channel? Look no further. Head over to Facebook where you can sign up for all the great events we host right here on the MTA YouTube channel. Be sure to sign up for the events and register your name and get locked in with a monster truck of your own and get ready for the great thrills and spills right here on the MTA YouTube channel. Again, find us on Facebook, register for these events, and you soon will be competing in all the great events. We hope to see you there. And get ready for the wild and crazy action. Be sure to subscribe and turn on all notifications so you don't miss a beat right here on the Monster Truck Attitude YouTube channel.
Oh, my remote was acting up, but hey, once again, that was Monster Truck Attitude, like I said, with the Revolution and stuff like that. So thank you for them for what they have done and all that jazz. So Preston, you just came off. We haven't talked to you in quite some time. I think the last time we talked to you, I think you were driving for Kohler for Monster Jam, and you were about to leave, and then we knew you were going over the drive to do some stuff with Corey and them with Wart Motorsports. And we fast forward now, you're the 2025 All-Star Monster Truck Tour champion. That's pretty cool and stuff like that. But let's talk about that a little bit. Then we'll backtrack when you got there, and then we'll push on forward with the future of what you've been doing. You're coming into the 2025 season. The news was already out that they're slowing down. I mean, not stepping down, but slowing down the operation, and just doing shows here and there. But with your mindset coming into All-Star, which me knowing you just take every day, time, not thinking in the future about what's going on and stuff like that. But you're still set to win the championship. It's a points championship. You had a good field there. We just talked to Kylie Kant a few weeks ago. She was in the Polar Bear, Frostbite, and then Haymaker. And then you got your partner in crime with Corey and Illuminator. And then you had Elliot Miller's crew, Nathaniel, Low Miss Dangerous, and also the High Time truck in general and that stuff. So with you getting ready for the All-Star Tour, you're already kind of with Overdrive and other tours previously, you're already starting to get your face recognized with the Toxic truck. So actually, before we talk about fast forward, before we talk about the 2025 season, you finally get comfortable in really like in 2010 was like one of the last, I think, second gen Patricks, maybe one of the first third gen Patricks. I know it was built side by side with the Virginia Giant. And you're getting ready to get into that. How did it feel for you, finally having a stable truck that people know, when Toxic comes, they know Preston's behind the wheel?
Yeah, it was cool, man. Like I said, last time we talked, I think I was driving for Jim. And that whole opportunity, from the start, that was a whole fill-in deal I think we talked about because Chris Kohler was in college at the time. His college professors basically told him that there's no way he's going to be able to drive on a tour and then do graduate college. So that was a cool deal, getting to do that whole first quarter with Jim. And Jim even said himself, he loved the way I worked. He really appreciated the job that I did, and he wanted to keep me on. But, options for seats available weren't really there because Joe Foley at the time, he was our crew guy, and he wasn't in the seat because Monster Jam hadn't cleared him yet. And, Chris obviously coming back, he would take over the ride. So, at the time, I just wasn't set with family and everything to just up and move to Michigan and be a crew guy living in Maryland. So that's where it was like, everybody understood it was a fill-in thing. And then I went back home to Maryland. But that whole time, monster trucks is all I've done as a career full time. And I was thinking about the future and trying to set something up and think about what was next while I was with Jim. And during that time, a little bit before I was working with Jim, actually, I had volunteered and helped out at a couple shows here and there with Corey and Jay. And they had that new metal shop truck that they debuted a couple years previous, and they were using that truck. And the Patrick chassis Toxic was more or less a spare truck that they just had in the shop. They weren't really running it. Like if there was problems with the metal shop truck or if something was going on, they just pretty much had another truck on standby ready to go. So I talked to Jay, I called him up, and it basically was just like, hey, what are your guys' plans? What do you got going on? And there was never really a set decision that I was going to drive, like as a full-time deal. It was kind of one of those things where it's like, well, come down, basically crew for Corey. I started out as a crew guy, and it was one of those things where, they know I can drive. If I needed to drive at a show, I could, if the opportunity arose. And so I just came down, started working with them, and before you know it, only like a couple weeks rolled by, and then promoter called, needed a truck last minute, and then Jay sent me out. It was me and Cliff for the first hurrah. I was just Cliff Vowell, Virginia Giant. He was my crew guy that weekend, and we went out and did a show in Maine, and it went really well. And then before you know it, called for another show, and that first summer of 2022, I ended up having like 10 shows or whatever when it was all said and done. And then, got offered a tour the following year. And then me and my best friend went on the road, and it kept growing, and then that's when it ultimately became a thing where it's like, well, it's less costly to send 2 trucks and 1 trailer than to have Corey go one way and me go another way. And that's where the whole 2-truck deal started. And it just blew up, man. And it was super fun and super awesome. And like you said, they chose they want to slow down now. And, it's been a good run. Those guys are awesome. There may be a cameo appearance one of these days. Jay told me if there was ever a show or something going on, I'd be probably the first call, see if I'm available. Obviously moving on, and I moved to South Carolina now. That's where I'm living. I bought a house just recently. So fill-in opportunities, they won't be as easy to get to, but you never know. There might be a big show. I might have an off weekend, and I might pop back in that truck and make an appearance. But yeah, man, a lot's happened since we talked last, and it's been a wild ride for sure.
So let's go back to so we go fast forward. You did a lot of shows actually by yourself.
Yeah.
A lot of the Overdrive shows that Nick Davis, which is one of our commercials that we'll be showing, showed. But you were driving that truck kind of, I would say you found that line where you could abuse the truck to a point where people would be like, wow, this guy's dangerous. But then again, you're like, I'm kind of taking care of it, and it's not doing what people think, a company driver kind of drives a truck, not thinking or, full bonsai, but you're kind of knowing about the truck also. You drove so many different trucks from, I remember I was somehow voluntarily track crew for J something motorsports, and you basically destroyed the whole front end of higher education at some show in Ohio. But, you went clear back, driving to the Sturgis, trucks. And then you start getting, to driving Kohlers, and then you drove the Toxic truck. And it just seemed like that Toxic and you meshed really well, to a point where a lot of shows are starting to become where you're not really just there just to be there. You're there to now becoming, the truck and you are now becoming on the billboards and, the posters, and you're starting to go out last through everything like time trial racing, two-wheel skill, freestyle. And I can see it through the videos and stuff like that. But for you, the mesh between you and that Patrick truck, that Toxic truck, how was that driving that truck? And, finally, you finally had your kind of the face with the truck type deal. Pretty much how were you feeling when you were driving the truck? Because it seemed like it was meshing pretty well, pretty good.
Yeah, no, to this day, I mean, the truck I'm driving now, I haven't really driven it enough yet. I've only done like 3 shows in it. And the last show I did, I mean, we'll talk about that later. I mean, it was definitely pretty cool. But I mean, that truck, man, it was a Cadillac. That's what I tell everybody. And I tell Corey and them, like, I mean, something about that truck, just the way, I mean, Patrick builds an awesome chassis. I mean, all the components on it, all the best of the best equipment you can have. Like, CRD, champagnes, knuckles, Overson spindles, axles, like you name it, all the best parts out there. It was on that truck. And, you could have a really good driver. I mean, there's guys out there, they can outdrive me any day, but you put somebody, I mean, the equipment definitely is important. A really good driver is one thing, but really good equipment is another. And I mean, people I'm sure have seen it. I've driven some trucks where I haven't really done too much in, and then driving Toxic, I'm like a whole different person. So it was definitely neat to kind of come into my own, and Jay and Corey, they just really provided me with an awesome opportunity, an awesome piece of equipment. And the fact that they let me go out there and trusted me to do shows on my own and really just kind of get out there and prove myself that I can do this was definitely something they never had to do. And when they pulled the trigger on it and they had that trust in me, like to this day, it's an honor. But yeah, like even just finding that line of not destroying the equipment and still being on top, like that didn't happen overnight either. I mean, I've had my fair share of dumb mistakes and crashes and stuff like that, even when I was driving Toxic or driving, I remember one show one year at Virginia Beach driving Illuminator. I got all wild and crazy and a little carried away. And, it's the name of the game, learning. And by when it was all said and done, I did do a lot of shows, I feel, riding that line and putting on a show and loading the truck and the trailer the next night. And that's what I strive to be. If someone gave me the green light and they're like, go out there and do whatever you want, like I never want to purposefully destroy a truck. That's to me a good driver. Someone goes out there, races hard, and puts on a good freestyle that everybody can remember, and still load that thing in the trailer. And that also takes tons of maintenance. Every week I was spending hours just cleaning that thing, nut and bolting it. I mean, the whole 9 yards. I mean, it definitely wasn't easy, but it was a real honor getting to work with such nice people and such nice equipment. And it's moving on forward, looking to do the same thing and continue.
So what we're going to do is another sponsor with us here, and then we'll jump back and we'll talk about your 2025 All-Star Monster Truck Tour. Well, thank you for Nick Davis and Back Channel Productions. Take a look at some of his stuff. He just done some crazy stuff with Lake Erie and Virginia Beach and stuff like that. So, so we're getting back here, and you're about, like I said, you're about to start the 2025 season. There was a lot of heavy hitters, Elliot Miller and Corey, but there was a lot of new people stuff too. So, what was your mindset coming into the 2025 season, and going through everything through your head? You had a pretty good lead, then Corey started catching up bit by bit, and finally in Chattanooga, you got what was going on. But before then, how was your mindset in the beginning of that year?
It was bittersweet, man. Like, I mean, Jay and Corey, we sat down, we talked. I mean, they weren't really quite sure that they were going to do a first quarter. Because that same year, 2024, the year previously, actually, Corey wanted to take first quarter off, the winter season off, kind of lay back a little bit, and then hit it hard in the summer. So that previous first quarter, I ran on the Hot Wheels live tour for driving for Paul Brood and them, filling in just to keep busy. So we weren't really sure what was going to happen for the following year, but then we all sat down, and that's when Jay laid the news on me, like, hey, we're going to slow down, kind of go back into hobby mode, but we're going to hit it hard first quarter, and Corey and I are going to go out there and go for a championship and have some fun. So it definitely was really cool, because I'd never had a legitimate shot at a points championship, and I knew, like, going in, like, I definitely didn't go in thinking like, oh yeah, I'm going to win this thing. But, I was fairly confident. I felt like I had a really good chance, because of the equipment I was provided, and because of the support that I had with the team. Those guys, they never held me back. They never pushed me down. They encouraged me, and we encouraged each other, and then it was so cool. The team dynamic was so cool, because anytime, like, I was down and I had a bad showing, Corey would go out there and he would make it up tenfold for the team. And if Corey was having a bad show, I would have a good show. And it was never like, Team Warped was always going out there and kicking butt, no matter if it was both of us or one of us. So it was just really cool to go into such an awesome tour too, representing for such an awesome team. And, another thing with Warped, like, so many shows, we did so many shows that were bucket list shows that I never thought I'd get to do. And All-Star Monster Truck Tour, getting to be a part of that was just, for me, a dream come true, because I believe to this day, All-Star Monster Trucks are within the definitely top 3 or 4 best monster truck promotions in the entire industry. So to get in there and to be able to run with heavy hitters that we ran with, it was just so much fun. And going out first show, that's basically what my mentality was for the season, was just, it's going to be sad having to step away from such an awesome piece of equipment and such a great team full time. But, just make the most of it, live in the moment. And that's what I did, and started off strong. And then third weekend, had some motor issues, fell way down in the points, and Elliot had the lead for a while. And, but, I didn't let it get to me. I was like, just go out, have fun. If I'm going to worry about the points and worry about a championship, I'm not going to enjoy this opportunity and enjoy the time that I have, with such an awesome privilege. And I just kept at it, kept working hard at it, and just doing my own thing, and then eventually caught up. And then it's just all the points definitely went back and forth. I know in previous years, there was always one guy that just ran away with it. Like John Zimmer Jr. ran away with it the year he won. Like Triton Robbins, I think, he won by a bunch of points. There was always that one guy. But this year, they definitely didn't make it easy on me at all. Like I didn't hold the lead up until the very end, and it was close. I don't remember exactly how much I won it by, but it was maybe about like 20 points or so. But, it's just to cap it all off in the finale too, and all the emotions that were going on with, me leaving the team and Corey stepping back from a full-time scale, and, Jay being there to witness it. And he was so fired up, and he was like, you boys just go out there and have fun. And my sponsor was there too, like the whole 9 yards. It was so awesome. And it was definitely one of the best experiences of my life in that final show. And just all the culmination of the years of being with Jay and Corey, and the friendships made and the experiences, it was definitely awesome.
So you talked about places going to, like maybe Florida, Chattanooga, Tennessee. Yeah, I mean, a lot of people do like the All-Star Tour because you go down south for most of the beginning part of the year. And a lot of places are cold. Well, the All-Star isn't. So going to some of your places like, Naples, Florida and stuff like that, where you saw that on television, and also how was it taking the jump off the mini lake with that too? When you saw that, what were you thinking before you were hitting that jump? Were you planning on that for a while? The story behind it, but still, you went to an iconic monster truck track where the Tropical Thunder rolled over on the fence area. So many TNN shows and stuff like that. So how cool was that?
It was awesome, man. Like just like you said with the locations, everybody wants the All-Star Tour because, who doesn't want to be in Florida and all these warm places in the wintertime? And nowadays, in the industry, the routing is just, it's all over the place. So many different tours, and, all the tours, they're awesome, but, something about being in Florida and just all the shows close by, and it was definitely cool. And that first one, it was kind of funny because we were all joking around. Like, first show of the year was probably one of the biggest shows of the year. I mean, other than the championship. But, I knew I was going to hit the Sippy Hole jump. And I mean, I definitely was nervous to a little bit. I mean, I wasn't as nervous as I was when I think most nervous I've ever been was either when I just first drove a monster truck, and then when I hit my first backflip. But like with this, I was real confident because of, once again, the equipment and the support. I had been used to driving that truck for some time now. I knew what it was capable of. I knew, anything that I wanted to make that truck do, I could do. And with the support too of Corey, he got in the truck, and all he basically said was like, hey man, are you comfortable hitting it? And I'm like, yeah, man, I'm good to go. And he was like, all right, have fun, brother. And it's just having that kind of support from a team, and it relieves a lot off of me. Because one thing about being a driver in my position, when you're driving somebody else's equipment, and you're trying to respect the equipment but also try to do a good job, there's a lot of weight on your shoulders. And when team owner comes up and he's like, hey man, just go have fun, there's it's a big confidence boost, and it made me do better as a driver. And that's why I think, I came out of my shell, and people got to know me more, and I really put my name on the map because of the support and the equipment. And that's one of them things, like just with that show specifically, it worked out, and it was awesome because of everything I had behind me.
And with that too, one fan was asking, who's kind of the most difficult track to run that All-Star put together for you?
Man, that is a tough one because all of them were so unique. I don't know why. I know Winder, Georgia comes to mind. That was a long weekend because we're just down in a little bowl And the track is really tight. It's really small. Like we couldn't even do regular racing there. It was timed racing. I did really good there though. It was really fun. But every track definitely presented its challenges, and that's what I liked about the All-Star Tour. Also, you go to a lot of these tours. They're really fun and they're awesome and they're competitive, but like the tracks don't really change up. You're running on the same course week in and week out, and it starts to become a rhythm. But like you couldn't get comfortable on this tour. It took a lot of talent to be successful on it, because like every weekend, like the racing course would change up or the freestyle obstacles would be different. Like you never knew what you were getting into, and as a fan, that made it exciting for me, because watching it as a kid and even going to shows, like I used to walk into an arena or a stadium and I didn't know what was going to be in there. Like, are we going to see an RV in there? Or are we going to see a school bus, van stack? Like, that's what it felt like on that tour. And Stacy Jensen did such an awesome job, building tracks and building obstacles. And it was just loads of fun, man. Like everywhere we went, there wasn't one place that was miserable at all. It was all fun, and that whole tour, definitely a lot of professional, lots of professional guys on there, and good teams, good drivers. It was just a blast.
Man, that's pretty cool. The All-Star Tour, and you had different, like you said, All-Star, and then you had the throwdown with Elliott and stuff like that, and go from there. You do so much with it. You came out on top, and was it kind of bittersweet? I know you already planned on what you were going to do, but more of the relationship between was it kind of like a hard pill to swallow for you, for saying, hey, goodbye?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I wish I could be driving the truck still, but at the same time, I do have a really good opportunity going on for me right now, and I'm looking forward to it. I'm excited, and it is a good piece of equipment. And then there's a lot of big things to come. But yeah, it's always hard to walk away from something you're used to. Like you're doing so successful with something, and I had a lot of. It wasn't even just the championship. I won a lot of big shows in that truck, and from the Metal Shop show in Delaware that they did, winning Monsters and Megas back to back, King of the Beach or whatever in Wildwood. Like there are so many highlights in my career and achievements that I never thought I would even get to be a part of some of these events, let alone winning them. And it was all because of, once again, the equipment, the support, and to walk away from that, obviously, it's definitely tough. But they're just memories I'll never forget, things I'll forever be grateful for. So many bucket list things got crossed off that I've wanted to do because of Jay and Corey and their support and what they did for me. And it's better to have done it and achieved it than to have never done it at all. Nothing great lasts forever, and that's just life. But I'm not done. There's bigger and better things coming for sure. And that's just my plan, man. Keep on rolling, keep on trucking, and see what we can do now.
So my last question about the top before we go and jump in after the commercial break is, we talked to Forrest, I think a few weeks ago before the Bristol event, and I know you were commenting and stuff like that, but we mentioned about the race between you and Trenton Robbins at Lernerville Speedway. And I haven't got the Trenton side, but we talked to Forrest about the race. It was probably one of the best races I have seen, and a lot of people have seen in the 2024 season. Go back, if you can think in your head, that race, because you pretty much passed them over the finish line, you full send it. But during that whole style racing, it kind of reminded me of Bigfoot 4 against Carolina Crusher at Lernerville. Let's talk about that before we go to the commercial break, and that race against Trenton and Crazy Train at Lernerville.
Oh, yeah, no, that definitely was a wild one, man. But it was just one of them things. Like, it was a big show. Everybody was hyped about it. Everybody that was there, it was 11 trucks, I think. Everybody wanted to win that thing. I came there to win. I came there to compete, and so did Triton. And I saw I was behind, and I just matted that sucker, and it came down to, like, I had confidence in that truck, just all the time. Like, the truck landed good, it held together good, and it was that confidence that told me, like, just go for it, mat it, and the jump landed good. It was an epic race, and to this day, like, I genuinely think he got me. I watched the videos and over again back when right after the show ended, and it looks to me like he got me. But either way, it was really fun, and at the end of the day, when me and Montana raced in the final round, it was meant to be. I think it was supposed to go to a Robbins boy by the end of the deal, and it did. So that was really cool for him, and it was just one of the many fun experiences. Like I said, just some of the wins and the highlights and the things I've gotten to do in that truck is so awesome, and I can only hope to carry that forward with the new opportunity. And people that know me, I definitely feel like I'm more of a racer. If I could go out there and do good racing and kick butt in racing, and freestyle is awesome. I try to do my best in everything, but racing to me, all my favorite drivers, guys I look up to, absolute best racers out there, and that show, the racing, was just wild, and I wanted to go out there and win it, and I gave it my all, and that's all that was.
Man, that's pretty cool. So we're going to jump in and have another sponsor to thank us, and then we're going to talk about what is going on currently post Warp Motorsports and the new endeavor that you're having right now. You said you moved to South Carolina, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. So we'll be right back. And thank you to MTRC, Colby Marshall, and his group for his RC stuff. That's also sponsored by J Concepts also. So once again, so you're finishing up your season. How did you get connected with Daniel Ames and the group from South Carolina? And how did that fruition started to the point where you're at now?
So naturally, Jay and Corey, when they laid the news on me, and I appreciate them once again. They're so awesome. That I had quite a long notice of what was happening and the direction of where things were going with the team. I want to say, like, definitely over half a year notice to figure out what I wanted to do next. So naturally, I explored a bunch of options. I reached out to some guys, and Daniel and I have been friends for a long time. We met, he had to be barely over 18. He might've still been a teenager. And then I was definitely still a teenager. And we met through playing Rigs of Rods. I know a lot of guys are familiar with that, the Monster Truck Simulator. But I met him. My best friend, Daniel Donnelly, I think, introduced me to Daniel, and we've always just been friends, known each other, and passing by at shows, and have kept in touch. And we kind of just talked, and BS'd about it, and it was one of them things like, well, he's had trucks, and he's been doing monster trucks for like over a decade, but he's only done a couple full-time seasons and really just slowed down and stayed under the radar to just hang out, like be with family. I mean, just like with anybody, family's important, and just kind of stepped back and did the family thing. But we just kind of talked about, hey, what would it look like if I came in and helped out and basically ran the trucks and booked the shows. And that's one thing too that was really cool about Jay and Corey. Like a guy like me, you go work for an independent monster truck team, you do what they tell you to do for the most part. Like if they book a show, you're going to that show. If you're going to Utah one week and then you're going to Wisconsin the next week, like you work for them, you do the shows they tell you to do. You don't have any contact really with like booking the shows with the promoters. If you want a week off, I mean, it can get a little complicated, and just having family around too. It's a luxury to be able to do that when you're in monster trucks, especially if you're not an owner. So like one cool thing about Daniel was like, you basically, like, he gave me reign of like, you can book the shows that you want to book. You can take the weekends off that you want to take. Basically, it's almost the kind of sort of feel of owning the team but not being an owner, if that made sense. And having the opportunity available if I want to take my family on the road. And that's where, when I worked with Jay and Corey, I didn't book all the shows, and I didn't have that complete reign. But it was really cool because some promoters would call Jay, and then some promoters would call Corey, and then some promoters would reach out to me. It was more of a team effort. It wasn't really one guy. And like Jay obviously had the ultimate decision at the end of the day, what we did, being the team owner. But it was really cool the way he treated it. It was always like, if a promoter called, even though I was an employee and I technically had to do exactly what he wanted me to do as an employee, it was always like, hey, Preston, are you available to do this show? Would you like to do this show? We would always have our powwows and all agree. And if I wanted to do a show and Corey didn't, we would be like, okay, well, if it makes sense, we'll send Preston. Like they will send me out to go do the show. And, there were shows we both wanted to do. There were some shows that just Corey wanted to do. So taking that experience and that privilege, and having it carry over to Daniel's team now, it's super awesome. And that's a big part too of what brought me down to be able to have that freedom, because that's not really around much in monster trucks. And on top of it too, like he's got a big shop, huge property. He's got, like, I don't even remember how many side-by-sides. He's got about like 6 or 7 side-by-sides. So, I mean, you could go trail riding for days back there and just have loads of fun, and got to jump on the property to practice if we want the monster trucks. And basically, I kind of asked, and we talked, like, what's the goal? Like, what were we going to do? And originally we talked about, like, do I want to go the route of maybe working to own my own, or do we want to just put all our eggs in one basket with what he's already got and build the team up and basically shoot for the stars? I mean, getting a Monster Jam one of these days, would be the dream. And so that's basically where it's at. My dream is to continue to do what I was doing with the Toxic truck, go out there and kick butt and have a nice piece of equipment and be a force to be reckoned with. And, Daniel definitely, I mean, he's got the full support behind me in that. And, he wants to see his team grow, and his whole family is going on the road this season, and they're all fired up about it. And his wife's driving the other truck right now. She's my teammate this year. And, and there's still so much that we're trying to figure out. There's big things coming. There's things we're working on. And I'm not going to say everything and let out all the secrets yet. But there's definitely big things coming and big plans and a lot of things that have already happened. You know, we got a new trailer coming out here in the next couple weeks that will be rolling out, and you know, already had a new body design fresh on Culture Shock, and that's just the start of it. You know, upgrades being made, and already did our first show. Did Swansea, New Hampshire this past weekend. You know, the truck felt great, landed really good. Honestly, you know, I'd say that thing lands just as good as Toxic. It's got Patrick shocks on it. It's Diesel Dave's old truck. It's the XDP diesel truck, the Patrick. That thing was in stadiums, man, doing Monster Jam not too long ago. So it's a good piece of equipment. It was doing really good for me. I got my seat in it that I had in Toxic, and you know, switched some things around in there to make me comfortable. And you know, it's first show down under my belt, and there's many more to come this year. Already got a good schedule too. You know, coming in halfway through the season, didn't know how easy it was going to be to transition from driving Toxic to a new team and then having shows booked. But you know, I think it's really cool. A lot of the same guys that I worked with driving Toxic, you know, they were super welcoming and super awesome and bringing me on to continue the rest of the season. And we've got a really busy schedule. So things are going good, man. And it's super exciting. And off for a couple weeks, but just can't wait to hit the road again and see where it goes.
And how was moving from Maryland to South Carolina for you?
It definitely wasn't an easy process, but because when I was in Maryland, kind of funny, you know, that's where support from my family has been a big thing. Because you know, growing up, my mom and my grandparents, you know, that's who I grew up with, and they supported me and enabled me in this crazy dream of mine. And you know, when I made the move to Maryland many years ago to work for Mike Vaughters and continue on later with Corey, you know, I had been there for quite some time. And there was a point in time that I thought, you know, I was going to be in Maryland. Like that was going to be my place. You know, I had been there for probably almost 10 years, I think. And so, you know, that was my home. So my family, they lived in Washington State. That's where I grew up. And one day I went and visited, and they were like, you know, we miss you. We miss having you around. And they never really got the chance to see me do any shows because I was always so far away. And they were like, we're just going to move. Like, what if we just all up and move and get apartments and live close to you? So they moved everything. We got a big U-Haul truck, and I drove the U-Haul across the country, and they followed me. And, you know, we eventually all rented a giant house. It was like a 5-bedroom house, and there was 2 kitchens in the house, and it was up on a mountain. It was crazy. And we all lived in it together. But, you know, when I found out we had to move, it was like, what are we going to do? Because now with me having to move, that would affect the rest of my family, my grandfather, my mom. So it was really cool. You know, it was tough to figure out the logistics of everything, but, you know, they were like, we're going to move with you. So my whole family, you know, they're here in South Carolina now. And I never thought I was going to buy a house. I ended up buying a house, and it's crazy to think, like, you know, I've done nothing in my life but monster trucks, just as just a guy working for other independent teams. And, you know, I've been treated so good, and I've had so many blessings, you know, to be able to buy a house at 28 years old, just doing monster trucks is definitely not something a lot of guys could probably say they've done. And it was definitely exciting. And it's great to have the whole family here. And I mean, the adventures and the things that are to come, it's just endless, amazing opportunities. And I'm just really excited and for this new adventure. And I definitely think this is something to watch out for sure.
And also, let's go back. How is being a father now? A lot of people say being a father or having a kid is life changing. We always I hear it a lot from the podcasts and the wrestling and stuff like that. They talk about the tests of having a newborn or a kid in your family, and you have something now that kind of the coin flips, because instead of you focusing on you and your wife, now you have this kid, and now pretty much that's your focal point. How was that for you, testing yourself and your family, having another generation in progress, and how is that life changing for you?
It's definitely life changing. It was very scary at first, honestly. I mean, not knowing what to do. It was a scary thought. Like, okay, I have a son, and the thoughts definitely there of like, one day, he's going to grow up around this. Definitely. I mean, I hope he grows to love this as much as I do. I hope he wants to be around it. And so far, he definitely has. He's got a giant load of monster truck toys, and he's always playing with them. And he's been to more shows already than I ever had been at his age. His first show he ever went to, he was only like 1 week old. So it's definitely been really cool. And seeing him like crazy too, like the whole when I did the whole Hot Wheels tour, he absolutely loved. Every weekend he went to the Hot Wheels Glow Party shows, and their target demographic are kids around his age. Monster trucks, their target demographic is kids in general, but like those shows are for the younger crowd. And it was always cool to see how fired up he would get. We'd walk into the arena and the lights were out and the trucks would light up, or be set for pit party, and he would just freak out. And the older he gets too, it's just super cool to see his little personality come out, and getting to have conversations with him now. It's definitely life changing and opens a new perspective in life for me, for sure.
So also with that, is there any social media people can follow you at?
Yeah. So Instagram, it's nice and easy. It's just Preston Prerez. I don't know how I got lucky with that. I figured there'd be other Preston Prerez in the world, and I would have to put a period in between or a number or something. But no, I just Preston Prerez on Instagram, and Facebook page. If you search Preston Prerez MT, I think fan page will come up. I don't really use TikTok or anything like that, so it's really just Facebook and the Instagram.
So it would be the next show people could probably see you at?
Next show as of right now, is Boonesboro, Maryland for Overdrive Monster Trucks. My schedule, I keep my schedules pinned and on all my socials, so that's the first post you can see. And I'm always constantly updating it. But like I said, we got a really busy schedule, and it's heavy with Overdrive Monster Trucks. They're really awesome to work with. I mean, Gideon, he was on here not too long ago, and they just had their big show in Bristol, and I was invited to be a part of that, and hopefully I can be a part of it next year. But Daniel always has his annual Swansea, New Hampshire date on the same date every year, so that's why we were there instead. But we're pretty much packed with the rest of the Overdrive schedule. I think we're in pretty much almost all the shows, and we're doing a lot with Jack Brady this year. We're in almost all the KSR shows. We got one for Vodders Motorsports. I think JM Motorsports, Jay Milligan's in there a little bit. And then one I'm most excited about for sure to look out for is that big 16 truck show up in Evansville, Indiana. I'll be up there, and who knows, you might see a backflip out of me.
Ooh. But still, that's pretty cool that you have kind of, with Daniel Ames's help, you have that footprint, and you have promoters trusting you to go against Creedon and Kohler and the Vodders and the Garners and stuff like that. Especially that Evansville show is be honest with you, you've done it too in stadium events too. That's a Monster Jam stadium caliber lineup with 16 trucks at a pulling track, wide pulling track. But still, that's a fun. The pit party's cool. The pit party's right next to where the entrance to the grandstands is. I think it's the 4-H farm, a 4-H camp that normally is there, but that's pretty cool to see and whatnot. But Preston, thank you so much for being on here, and thank you again, and hopefully see you down the road.
Yeah, man, definitely. I'm sure one of these days we'll cross paths. You'll be driving that Ram truck, and I'll be in culture shock, and we'll be going down the track together.
I'll be enjoying it. Hopefully, you can stick with the Ram identity. We still need a lot of Ram trucks. Just the body itself. I know that's the XDP body. What was in that Extreme Diesel? Pretty much that body is, or was that?
Yeah. That's same body. Brothers Racing. They make the Dodge bodies, and that's what we're rocking for right now. And like I said, there's definitely things coming. I mean, there's talks of different identities in the future, possibly running my own identity. Body changes. We're stripping chassis down eventually. I mean, there's so much stuff, but it's all going to be, not going to let out all the secrets yet. They're going to come.
Due time.
Yeah, they're going to come in due time, because some things may come earlier than others. And it's really just get out there, do a good job, put our name on the map, and just keep growing is really what it is right now.
Some stuff get short, but then again, some get postponed and drag along a little bit until the right time to pull the trigger. So that's cool. Thank you for being on. We've been trying to tag back and forth about it, but I know when I invited you to get back on, I think it was kind of towards the end of the All-Star shows, and then you had kind of the move and everything like that going on, but we finally got the time to do that, and thank you for doing that. Crush This. We're on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. Once again, folks, this will be on iTunes and Spotify, and later on Monster Truck Monthly. He kind of does it a week after. Give us a 5-star reviews on iTunes and Spotify. Take a screenshot and tag me and Preston and Brad and Crush This on all social media platforms. And enjoy the time here. Once again, like Brad says, call a friend, talk to a friend, talk to a family member. Just have a good time and talk to whoever you need to. I saw my dad saying hello, Dad, and everyone else on here. Thank you for being on, and hello, Steve, and everything that you have done. You've been doing a kick-ass job with the MTA, with the Thunder and Revolution. Like I said, Thunder's on Thursday nights, and Revolution's on Friday nights. So go ahead and take a look at that too. But once again, guys, thank you. For me, Facebook, Instagram, I do follow TikTok, and that's pretty much it. And show some love. It's Dan TJ Gosh. I think it's MT_Dan Gosh 28. And also the weather's changing too from winter to summer. There's like no spring anymore. It's cold and then extremely hot. And pets, dogs outside, cats are wandering, bring them inside. Heat's just as bad as cold. And also donate blood. Helps out the community too. You just never know what's going on there also. But once again, that is Preston Prerez. I'm Dan Chichigosh. Brad Shaw is also drumming at church. Next week, I believe, it's going to be Carson Wilson. I forget his last name, but he will be on from Team Throttle Monster for a cool interview. So once again, keep the rubber side down and the shiny side up. Good night. Peace.